Between what we've lived through and what our day jobs demand, we've spent some serious time researching neuroscience. The pattern we keep seeing is the way we think shapes the way we behave. And over time, those behaviors shape our outcomes, often before we even realize we've made a choice.
So in that research of neuroscience, it opened the door to neuroplasticity, habit loops, stress responses, microdecisions, all the brainy stuff that explains why just try harder is a trash strategy. In this lab, we're rewiring habits one experiment at a time.
Welcome to I² Lab. This one is a tricky one, I think, only because we don't talk about this one enough. Mm-hmm. There's a lot that we don't talk about enough in weight loss mode because a lot of programs just focus on exactly what you should be eating and shouldn't be eating, and that's it. There's the inner work that we really lean into in the lab because that is what is going to keep it off. If it's not about losing the weight for one day to fit into the dress or the jeans for one day, it's about losing the weight and then finding a way to have that sustainable in the rest of your life so that you can fit into the same pair of jeans that was your goal jeans a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. There is nothing like going into your closet and pulling out something you wore a year ago and it's still fitting. Nobody talks about that kind of feeling enough, in my opinion. I have this drundle. It's a drundle. It's a German dress that I wear every year for Oktoberfest with our friends. And every year I pull it out, I get this little sinking feeling that it's going to be too tight or that it's just not going to fit. Because that's just been the pattern for me. I have to switch out this size of clothes for this size of clothes that I have kept for multiple years, which I don't anymore. I got some advice from a previous coach that was like, you have to get rid of all your fat clothes. You have to get rid of your big clothes. Cause I had a tub of size 26, 28s. I had a tub of size 20, 22s. I had a tub of 16, 18s. I had a tub of 8 and 10s. And now that tub was actually smaller than a lot of the other tubs because you could tell with the amount of clothes I had in each tub, how long I was at or how many times I had revisited that size. But all of those tubs are gone. I just have my 6s and 8s. I have some 10s now too, but I actually have some 4s too. But it just depends on how the clothes fit, honestly, kind of what size I'm in. But this is the part, the hidden cost of self-awareness. Because as you're going through this journey, you can put the stuff on your plate that you've been told to eat, and you can eat the amount of calories that you've been told that is going to allow you to lose the weight that you want to lose. However, when we start to actually turn to the moments that we can then look at ourselves reaching for the thing that we don't even know why we're reaching for the thing, whether it's a cookie or it's a cupcake or it's the chips or it's something that's off plan, and we catch ourselves mid-reach or we see ourselves mid-excuse. Well, I can't do it because I have this one thing that I'm going to go to. Like I have this event all day Saturday. So how could I possibly go to that event and eat the food I'm supposed to? Once you catch yourself doing that excuse and you see it, you cannot unsee it. Doesn't mean you actually, this is what we're going to get into. Just because you do see it doesn't mean that you actually change your behavior too in that moment, which actually causes even some more discomfort in the body. Once you start to become aware, it doesn't mean just because. This is why when people say, when you know better, you do better. Absolutely not. That's not true. When you know better, you do know better. But there is a gap between the original awareness, becoming awake to those kinds of things, however you want to say it, and then actually changing your behavior. Those can happen at two completely different times, and that's what F's people up.
Right. I think awareness gives you clarity, but it can cost you simplicity.
Say more.
Like it can give you truth, but another way to say it, it can cost you comfort because you have this awareness, but you no longer have, with that awareness comes responsibility.
Oh, that's it.
And you all you have now is excuses. Because if you know what you need to do and then you don't follow through and do it, then there's a cost there.
This is really important because can we take a minute and talk about the difference between responsibility and accountability?
Yeah,
Because
there's a difference.
There is a difference. So what are you thinking the difference is?
Oh gosh, you're gonna have me define it on the spot.
Well, let's talk through it.
yeah.
So if I have a coach, I'm accountable to someone.
Yes.
So I give, for example, my goal for the week could have been to drink all my water. So that's what I'm going to be accountable to my coach for. So I state on Sunday, this is what I'm going to do this week. I'm going to have this much every day. And then by that same time next week, that's when I report in. I'm accountable to someone else. I'm accountable to that coach. And I think that's why coaches work for a lot of people, because I think that takes the responsibility off of you a little bit, because that, maybe I'm wrong, but I think accountability is you being accountable to somebody external from you. And then responsibility is internal.
Yeah. I like that. I'm trying to think through this too. I've never really thought about it before us talking through it. That's why I was like, oh God. Define it on the moment.
I mean, this is on the spot. We haven't talked about this at all.
Yeah, I think responsibility, I like that. It's ownership. It seems more personal, right? It's ownership of outcomes and the impact. It's answering for what?
Wait, which one?
Responsibility.
Okay.
It's, I'm sorry. Accountability. I think it's more ownership of the outcomes and impact of what actually happened, like regardless of the intent maybe, but responsibility, maybe it's more like of what you're supposed to do. It's more internal, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Responsibility is more personal. It's more ownership of actually what you need to do, like the actual
like you're
task.
supposed to do.
Yeah.
It's task, it's action, it's duty.
Yes. But accountability is more ownership of the outcome and the impact. Not necessarily what you had to do, but more of the outcome of it.
The result, the consequence,
the result.
The impact. Did it work? And am I owning that result? There is still a little bit of an ownership in both. And I think that's why
it's a little gray.
It's a little gray.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've never talked about the difference between this, but I do think there is a difference. I think a lot of times we're not prepared to take responsibility for our actions in this journey.
Mm-hmm.
I can blame the program. I can blame the coach. I can blame my circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
I can blame the stressful life, the job, all the things I have going on that I can't control. Oh, this is just who I am.
Right.
I'm not somebody that could stick to this kind of thing. There's in my opinion, there is a complete lack of full responsibility in that scenario.
Yes. It's, we've talked about this a lot. It almost feels a little victim mentality a little bit there.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not taking complete responsibility there. When it is in your control.
But you don't see that it is.
Mm-hmm.
Until
Not yet.
You finally see it, which is the self-awareness when that comes in.
Oh yeah. It's tied.
I think it's tied.
I do too.
Okay, so
this is interesting.
Do you
I didn't see it going here.
Well, so this came up because there's a part of the lead program we do where it's a thinking program.
Mm-hmm.
So we have people think, and it's very uncomfortable. A lot of people actually don't like the program because it isn't a black and white. If you see this, then you do this. There isn't like this, you walk away with some tools, but they are tools that you have to take responsibility for.
Yeah.
And that's not like any other leadership program that people typically go through.
Most classes tell you how to behave or how to do something. This class does not do that at all.
Which is very uncomfortable for someone who just wants to come in and be told what they should be learning and shouldn't be learning.
Yeah, that we tell you how to think so that you can go back into an issue or a problem and come up to an answer yourself, which honestly is a pretty empowering thing to do, but it's very uncomfortable to not have the answer to something.
Very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So one of the pillars is know thyself. It's not really I call it a pillar. We don't call it that in the program, but in one of the sections, it ends with, we have 5 foundational principles, and the one that is would we say it's the most foundational, similar?
It's the bedrock principle.
The bedrock principle. Mm-hmm. That's what I was looking for. Bedrock.
Yes. Yeah. It is the foundational bedrock. It's the baseline.
It's what everything else is can stand on.
Yes.
And we are more similar than we are different. And we actually play a couple videos around it. Mm-hmm. And at the end, it's what ties into that is know thyself. And I think this is where the self-awareness really comes in. And we don't go into this in the program. We lay it out there for someone to get more curious to, and then they could dive in on their own, which is what you were just saying. Like, we tell them a framework of how to think about it, but not what to do necessarily.
Do you want to go into that just a little bit on what that means?
Go ahead.
Or do you want me to go into it a little bit?
Please do.
The program itself, and I don't want to go too far into this, but I do want you guys to have a little bit of background. What does similar versus different mean?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys all
can
imagine, like, okay, but the program goes into things like human needs and values. We've talked about that before. It goes into human attitudes,
beliefs,
motivation, what motivates somebody intrinsically. You can't motivate somebody externally. Someone can only motivate themselves. So it goes really into human nature, which is knowing yourself, essentially. You can't force somebody to do something. You have to work through them, essentially, which is another one of our principles. And in order to do that, you have to know yourself. So that's why similar versus different is such a bedrock principle. And a lot of the science, because this program is based in science, a lot of the science behind similar versus different is that we are 99.9% genetically the same. And this can get a little heated in the class sometimes. Yeah. We state things like there is only one race, the human race. Race is a social construct. It was created by humans. It was created by humans around the time we were coming over to the U.S. We used it to segregate races. I mean, we used it to put us into different social categories.
Social constructs, yeah.
Yeah, social constructs. We are 99.9% the same, and genetically, and that is founded by the UN. It is scientifically backed. There is no reason for us to segregate us into different categories other than a social construct. The only thing that separates us is the way we think.
That is the foundation of the program,
yes.
Essentially. But this gets very heated because even on HR questionnaires, it still says, what race are you? And then it proceeds you have selections as if there is a difference, but it's still called things from a social construct perspective. Now, I'm not saying there aren't different nationalities.
Yeah. Yes. And we are the only country in the whole world that requires that question. We are the only country that has to track that. It's a very interesting conversation when we go into it. We have some beautiful poetry by Maya Angelou. We could probably post after when we post this podcast to share with you guys. I'd love to have this conversation with anybody that wants to. It is because this might be controversial to you guys. It might not.
Sometimes it isn't in the cohorts that we're giving. Sometimes they're like, yeah, no, this makes perfect sense. I totally agree.
Because there's nothing, because basically we're saying that we are all equal and we should all love each other and we should all treat each other with respect. And that's all we're saying in the end. And that's where the conversation lands. And there's nothing that makes you better than me. I mean, that's really what we're getting to when we say there's only one race, the human race. And honestly, that's what all of that segregation is trying to do anyways. But all it's doing is dividing us. It's not bringing us together. In order to bring us together, we have to come together. We can't divide ourselves in order to bring us together. And that's what that does.
Yeah. We also go into, gender and then age,
generations.
That's the argument that it typically will go to in the room. Well, okay, yeah, but what about millennials versus
boomers, and it's like there is no difference in what we need and what we want in life. There's just a difference in stages of life. Yeah. A boomer
is where the science really takes you anyways.
Yeah. A boomer may want more time at home because they want more time with their grandchildren. But I guarantee you, millennial, when you are the same age as a boomer, you're going to want the same thing. That's no different they're not different from you just because they were born in a different generation. They're just at a different stage of life.
And a good example that comes up is there could be a mother that is 18 years old, and there could also be a mother that just had her first baby when she's 45 or 43.
I guarantee you they have more in common than two 40-year-olds.
Nobody's saying they're the exact same. We're not saying that, but we are more similar than we are different. So we have the same needs, the same wants, the same. Then it goes into somebody goes to technology typically. Well, that generation they used an abacus and I use a calculator, or I use my phone, or I use AI. Yeah. Certainly there's going to be broader gaps in technology with the introduction of AI versus not.
So, somebody told me one time, I thought this is so funny. They were like, well, I like to sit on the floor and older people don't like to do that. I looked at them and I was like, that's just bones.
That's just a human preference.
It's like, I guarantee when you're older, you're not going to want to sit on the floor.
And that makes you so different. You can't talk about a subject. Anyways.
It was so hard to answer that with a straight face. But yeah, so hopefully that helps answer that question of similar versus different and knowing thyself. Because if you know yourself, essentially the answer is when you know yourself, you will see yourself in others.
Yeah.
Is what we're getting at there. So hopefully that sets up the stage a little bit, and hopefully that isn't too spicy.
Yeah. So the hidden cost of self-awareness. The moment you realize the story you're telling yourself isn't true, and you keep telling it anyway. Okay. I just kind of want to lay that out there, and then we're going to go into some science here. So there was a study done that helps us to drive this home. It actually wasn't a study. It was actually a research program. It was done by Dr. Tasha Eurich. It was featured in Harvard Business Review. I think it was 2017, and her book Insight. So it wasn't a single experiment. It was a multi-year research program. There was nearly 5,000 participants, 10 separate studies, an analysis of nearly 800 prior studies. Surveys comparing self-ratings versus how others rated them. So like a 360 type review, in-depth interviews with about 50 people who dramatically improved self-awareness. So this was a broad study.
And I just want to pause there because we've looked at a lot of studies, And that is that's extensive research.
This isn't 14 people.
Right.
One time
which
in a
typically
room.
says this is a legitimate study. This research is very grounded when it's that broad of a study.
I'm saying all of that
Yeah.
because it's a comprehensive look
Yes.
at what we're really looking at. We have at how people actually see themselves. So she found out a lot of different things. So one of the first things we're going to talk about is how many people do you think we work with that think they're self-aware? Not work with, we know. I mean, I would even say this, like, I feel like I'm pretty self-aware.
I know. I've taken the strengths finders and stuff, and I'm introspection is really high on me, which means you internally think about yourself. You're very introspective.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very self-aware. I walk around thinking I'm very self-aware and I know myself. So therefore you judge others through your own lens. So I think, well, everybody should be self-aware.
I know how stupid I am.
And I walk around thinking I'm very self-aware.
So the science says 95% of people think they are self-aware when they took this. And once they actually did the program, the research on them, only 10 to 15% actually meet the criteria of being self-aware.
There is something called introspection illusion. I think that's what they call it. People often think they have more insight into their own motivations, behaviors than they actually do. But that increased self-awareness leads to that overconfidence and self-knowledge, and they don't have it. I think that's what that's called. I
agree.
Yeah.
I think there's a Dunning-Kruger thing too, that where you just, this is, I think we have to talk about this here too, because if you believe you are self-aware, but you need to be calibrated in some way. Like, I need you to tell me, like, no, this is actually what's really happening here.
Check me here.
Yeah, check me here on this. If you're not, and you're confident in areas where you really shouldn't be, or you are not confident in areas that you should be, you aren't self-aware, and you could be reacting in ways in different situations that aren't going to benefit you. So it's also this is why it's so good to have a mentor or a coach, someone externally from you to go, this is the perception. And perception can be reality. And a lot of times this isn't what you might be meaning to portray with this, but this is actually how it's coming off. Okay. So that's first and foremost. 95% of people think they're totally self-aware, and there's only 10 to 15% that actually are. The core concept is there's actually two types of self-awareness. So Yerk found that self-awareness is not one thing, it's two. There's internal self-awareness, like how well you know your patterns, your habits, your triggers, which I hate that word, but things that...
I'm triggered.
Oh, God, just get over it. Things that... And it's not that they're not true. It is just that it's become it's been overused. It's such an overused word. There are certainly things that could trigger things within you that you need to work with. Internal self-awareness is like your motivations, what motivates you. External self-awareness, how well you understand how others perceive you, your impact on them. So that's how well you understand how well I'm being perceived, how well I understand my impact on others. So external versus internal self-awareness. The surprising part, there is no strong relationship between the two. It was interesting that she found in her research. The thing is once you start to go down this path of weight loss, week one, you're just, trying to figure out what to eat. Okay. I know I need to step on the scale because that's one metric. I need to figure out what I'm going to what's my KPI, what's my output. And then my inputs, I need to start changing what I put in my body.
It's a check the box activity at first.
Yes. I just need to get the bare bones of this. So I'm going to eat these things. I'm going to eat them at this time. I'm going to drink this water. I'm going to whatever it is. However big you make it be. Like some people go all in, they're like, I'm going to get 7,000 steps and I'm going to drink all the water. And I'm going to get all this. And you need all of those things, but you don't have to do those day one to start making changes either. Once you start to do that for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you start to get it starts to become pretty habitual. You start to understand, like the software you're using, if you're tracking anything, you've got the food scale at home, maybe if you're wanting to be meticulous about exactly the grams that you're putting in to your food of whatever it is. Like you're starting, so it starts to, I want to say, ho-hum. It starts to get a little, mundane. It starts to get a little Groundhog Day-ish. Like it's just rinse and repeat, which is a lot of what this journey is. That's a lot of when you see people who are pretty fit or they maintain their weight, most of their days look very similar. I'm not saying every day is perfectly the same, but a lot of their habits are the same every day. They generally get up around the same time.
80% the same or something.
I would say yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would guess that. Yeah.
The novelty isn't as much as I think people think it is,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be either. So once you start to get good at what's putting it into your body, then you should, at least, I'm not saying I did this every time, but this time I wanted things to be different. So I needed to start looking at things differently. So what was I going to do differently? So I started to do some of the inner work, which is not easy. And you catch yourself mid-excuse. But early on, you can catch yourself mid-excuse and still not see how you're showing up to other people. Or you can read the room perfectly and have no idea why you keep self-sabotaging something. Like there's a gap in the having the awareness, catching yourself, seeing something different, and then actually behaving differently. So we're going to get into, there's the 4 self-awareness archetypes.
I wonder, I was thinking, before you move on.
Yeah, no.
This might not be connected, but I was thinking when you do true self-awareness, it means confronting uncomfortable truths about yourself.
Absolutely.
Sorry. Truths did not come out of my mouth
No,
correctly. So let me say that correctly.
It sounded right.
Like your biases, the limiting patterns, like the impact on others, right? Like, but that can create a, I'll call it like a threat state in your brain, like particularly around like your status with others.
Yeah, that's
like, I'm not as competent thought,
Yeah.
but like what you were saying.
There's a social uncertainty.
Right there. So I was just thinking, I wonder if that's why we self-sabotage ourselves.
It could be.
I don't want that threat status. I do want to fit in.
Of course.
Yeah, I wonder if that's could be a piece there.
It absolutely could be.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean it is that for everybody either.
Right.
Because we talked about it.
One reason maybe.
Yeah, we just talked about it on another podcast we did,
yeah.
Us versus Them.
Yeah.
If wine matters to you, then that's going to matter. But if it doesn't, you're like, okay,
I don't care. There's no threat there.
That's not a social.
I fit in. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
So Urich, Tasha, Tasha, we're like on first name basis. Dr. Tasha Urich mapped people into 4 categories based on internal plus external awareness. 1 are the seekers. There's those that would say things like, I don't know why I do what I do. They're low internal, low external. They just don't know. They're just this, like, I don't know. 2 introspectors, high internal, low external. Like they would say things like, I understand myself, but I don't see my blind spots. So they're the ones that are probably a part of the 95% that think they're totally self-aware, but they're only actually 10% self-aware because they don't. It's a blind spot for a reason.
And I'm a little nervous because I said I'm high in introspection. So
are you an introspector?
Hopefully I'm not in that category.
So that means high internal, low external, which just means that, so if we think about the external self-awareness, that's how well you understand how others perceive you, how well you understand your impact on them.
I'm pretty socially aware. So hopefully I'm not in that category.
But
At
maybe
least
you're
I
not
think
as
I'm socially
maybe
aware.
you're not as high on that as you are as knowing internally.
Yeah.
Maybe. And then there's so we have seekers, introspectors. 3 is pleasers. They're low internal, high external. I could see that. I know how to show up for others, but not for myself.
It's almost like an obliger. If you're thinking
That's exactly
that's what I thought of.
The 4 tendencies by Gretchen Rubin.
Yeah.
I definitely, I see that a lot in our group. And this comes up a lot around drinking, especially at like a girls' brunch. I talked one of our individuals through, she was going out to a girls' brunch and she pinged me right before. She was like, I don't know what to do. I'm freaking out. I know there's going to be this one person there who's going to question me if I'm not drinking and I don't know what to do. And I was like, you decide now what you're going to do. You decide now before you go. And I mean, really decide. Are you or aren't you? You decide now and you tell me which one you want to do. If you're like, I don't want to deal with this right now, I just want to go, then fine. And she's like, no. I was like, just because you decide this time that you're not drinking doesn't mean next time.
Right.
We're just talking about this time. Don't think about forever. Don't set yourself up for this perfect, not perfect type of a scenario.
That's a great way to put it because it opens the door for
next time you drink.
It makes it easier to say no this time because it's not forever.
It's P.S. It's not. You could say it is, but that doesn't mean that it actually is.
You can have a drink again at some point in your life. It's not going to, I mean, as long as you're not allergic to it and you're not, an alcoholic. And I mean, as long as it's not going to kill you.
Especially when you start to look at your life and you're like, look, I have a girls' brunch every other weekend. So you have 2 a month.
Right.
Choose to drink at every third one then.
Yeah.
If you need a mathematical equation to put to it, like if you need I need a playbook, then make that be your playbook. Or it's once every.
And practice the no in front of the mirror.
That's what I had her do.
Okay,
I said, you decide now. And she came back to me and she was like, okay, nope, I don't want to. I was like, then you've decided. So now let's practice what you're going to say and what you're going to do. What are you going to ask for? And what are you going to do? And then what are you going to say when that individual, they might not, by the way. And they might. What are you going to do? What are you going to say? And you need to practice it out loud with your actual vocal cords in front of a mirror, because the first time I said it and I hadn't practiced it, it came out like a squeaky little mouse.
I don't think so.
And then you sound so wishy-washy about it. You don't sound like you are grounded in your decision. And those that are food pushers, if they truly are typically those that are very highly attuned to patterns, and they will suss that out.
Pounce on you.
Yes. They're like, ooh, there's a window of opportunity.
Always a food pusher too, man. There always is a food pusher in every group.
And I pointed out to her before she went, I was like, you are wanting to please her. Mm-hmm. You are wanting to not make that individual uncomfortable. It's not about you. It's more about, and actually this is very selfish on your part, because you aren't being true to the situation or her by holding your line, and you are just wanting, you're honestly saying she can't handle it if I say no. You're actually, it's the opposite of what you actually think it is. So for her saying, I just want to please everybody. I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to be, it's actually very selfish. It's a selfish act.
Do you want to go into that a little bit more? I wonder if people struggle to see that it's a selfish act. I mean, I don't know if there's another way to describe it, because
this one can get really deep. That's why I stopped there. I feel like I should go deeper, but this one can get very...
Because it's so hard to see, like... I mean, I see it. I don't know if everybody can take that leap, because it feels like you're doing it... It almost feels like you're doing it for your friend.
Absolutely.
It feels like you're saying, yes, I'll have that drink to save your friend's feelings. And it feels like you're almost, I I don't want to say this because I don't want to hurt anybody. It feels like you're being the victim or the martyr because you're like, I don't want to hurt my friend's feelings. But for you to say that it's a selfish act is completely flipping the script. And
I think a lot of people could be like, she's crazy.
I know.
What
It's
is she
like,
talking about?
It's hard to make that leap or that jump for a lot of people, I imagine.
And it will be because it's a complete blind spot.
It is. Yeah. So maybe we don't go there. Maybe that's something we completely do it at another time.
I think we go deep. If someone's interested in that, this
Let's
actually comes from parts work.
Let's go deeper later. Let's just maybe leave that as a teaser. And if somebody is confused and frustrated, let's apologize and let's just let them sit with that. And then maybe let's go deeper later because I don't want to take too long on it.
No, because it really gets a little deep into parts work, which is internal family systems, which is very, very interesting. I'd like to do a few podcasts on that. And
that's fantastic.
It might not even be a podcast. I think it's more like a workshop.
Yeah.
But
we've said it a couple times, so I just didn't want to
This gets really deep into how you show up for people. And I just want someone this would be them holding two opposing thoughts in their head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Could you be curious enough to how you showing up as a people pleaser to be selfish? Okay. Mm-hmm. So seekers, introspectors, pleasers, and then fourth is aware. I know myself and I know my impact. This is high internal, high external. So she classified them into 4. Most people think awareness means becoming like an introspector, but the real goal is integration. Seeing yourself and seeing your impact, which we've talked about integration before from a lead perspective, which is where it just becomes who you are. It becomes natural.
Right.
Okay. The finding most people miss. This is the hidden cost. And this was the Harvard Business Review summary highlights on this. Introspection does not always create self-awareness. It can actually reinforce stories, create confusion, and deepen that self-justification.
I think that's a huge one.
Which is it's completely ignoring responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
If I bring it back to that.
Mentioned before, those excuses.
So this is when you catch yourself mid-excuse, and instead of changing, your brain explains it better. Which is, I know we're getting into a lot of sciencey topics on this, but this is cognitive dissonance.
Mm-hmm.
This is when you are holding two truths, potentially, in your head at the same time, and they don't really match up. But you know you should do this because now you're catching yourself in an excuse. You're catching yourself doing something, but you're not really doing it yet.
You believe one thing, but you really want to believe another thing because it's easier.
This is where people say changing your identity is really, there's this really messy bit because
it's hard.
You're no longer fitting in with some of your friends, but you're not really ready to fit in with your new group of friends either.
Yeah.
This inner work is hard and it's messy. And this is when you see a lot of people just go back to their old behaviors because it's so much more comfortable. I don't have to deal with this bit. I'm not that person anyways. See, I told you, but now you know a little too much and you've come a little too far to actually go back and be oblivious to it.
Mm-hmm.
At least you should be.
Yeah.
You really should be.
Mm-hmm.
Here's I'm going to expand on Yerk's work. What Yerk shows us is awareness is rare, awareness is complex, but awareness does not mean change. What she doesn't fully expand on is awareness introduces a new psychological pressure. You no longer get to be innocent in your patterns. So, meaning that I see my pattern is that I always go to the fridge at 8 o'clock at night after I've done really good in the first part of the evening. But if I think of the second part of the evening, which is really when I should be getting ready for bed anyways, that's when I want a special treat. And then the special treat turns into 1,000 extra calories or 500 extra calories. It doesn't have to be 1,000, but it could be 5,000 extra calories.
Yeah.
You start to see that pattern. You start to see your hand reaching for the refrigerator door in ways that you didn't before.
Yeah.
And you no longer get to be innocent to those patterns. Really, you no longer get to be oblivious to those patterns.
Yeah, I just had another corollary, and I think you'll like this one. Awareness gives you freedom, and I know you love freedom, but it costs you your innocence.
Yeah.
You like that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It costs you not being responsible.
Yeah.
You don't get to just be irresponsible about what you do anymore.
Yep.
Just because you know better doesn't mean you do better, but you are just getting into the messy bit. So this is where before awareness, you could say, this is just like how I am. Like, this is just what I do. This is how things are. I'm stressed, blah, blah, blah. But after the awareness, that sentence feels dishonest. Like it doesn't sit as well with you anymore, and you can feel it. And things just feel off. And this is where I think people think that they're not doing it right, that maybe they're still losing weight, or maybe they start to self-sabotage because they start to feel this way. Because this inner work is very messy. I know I keep mentioning that, but I want to make sure we talk about that and that we normalize that, because this is the normal bit. That you doing what you're doing is hard in and of itself. You're asking your body to do physical things and get rid of fat. That's very hard on the body. And you're also asking your brain.
I think that's important to say, though, because if this time is going to be different, I think we have to do this inner work, though.
We have to. Otherwise, we're going to lose the weight, and then we're going to get scared because we don't know how to maintain it. Now, what do I do? This is the journey. This is a part of it. And we've talked about before that, like, what if I could just snap my fingers and I have a magic wand, and you wake up tomorrow and you're in your ideal body and you're at your ideal weight, but you never felt what it was going to be like to drink that much water in the day and find a bathroom when you're out and about, and tell your friends that you're not drinking this time, but you know, not this time. I'm doing a thing. You don't know what it's like to do those things, to prep your food, to measure the amount of ranch that you put on your salad.
I wish I didn't have to measure them.
Of course, there's a freedom around that, but then there's
There's not, though. There's no freedom.
There's a perception of freedom.
Yes, there you go.
There's a perception.
There is no freedom
of freedom
in not weighing your ranch. There's a delicious gluttony in not weighing your ranch.
And I love sauces. Give me all the sauces, all of the things.
If I could open up a sauce restaurant, I would do it. I love it.
We've talked about creating an app on rating the ranches at restaurants.
I actually rank and rate my restaurants based on the ranch.
100%.
I'm like, go to this restaurant, they have the best ranch.
Yeah.
Go to that restaurant, they're number 2 in ranch. Like, just, I love ranch. It's so good. Okay, go ahead.
We're from the Midwest too.
Yes.
Okay. Before awareness, you could be like, you could say things like, I don't know, I'm just tired. I had a long day. Oh, I don't know if I would say this because this is sciencey, but this is just my pattern. I don't think I would ever actually say that.
Oh, it's just my pattern.
I would never say that.
Hey guys.
I'd be like, this is just what I do.
Pattern.
That's just really what it kind of translates to. But after you've you're been curious enough to it and you have opened your eyes to it, it could show up as, I know this is avoidance. And this is when the dark stuff starts to surface a little bit. I know I'm emotionally eating. When you can actually look at yourself eating something and you say, I know I'm emotionally eating, you're aware. Or I know I'm choosing comfort over honesty, which really means I'm choosing comfort over actually feeling what I need to just feel right this second. There's this painful middle that Uric, that we can connect to Uric's work, and it's the awareness doesn't equal change. You don't change immediately. You just watch yourself not change. And this is where I think this is that fork in the road for some people that and I think a lot of people see this. It could be when they get below 200, when they see that 1 in front of the number, it could be after you could have seen it after your Europe trip, because you're starting to get into that last phase of your journey.
Mm-hmm.
Some people see this in their last 8 to 10 pounds. Some people see that. I mean, we talk about this middle ground, which isn't exactly smack dab. It could be smack dab in the middle of your journey. It could be towards the end, could be towards the beginning. It could happen multiple times.
I'm in fun clothes. I'm not restricted in doing any fun things.
I can move freely now.
Yeah, I can I can do anything I want. I'm not restricted. I can play any sports. I can fit into anything I need to fit into. I have freedom again.
You have more freedom
Yes.
than you did before.
Yes.
Habits are deeply wired and automatic. So we have to make sure that the habits that we're doing are now going to be supporting long-term. So self-awareness doesn't immediately make you better. It gives you the opportunity to do better.
You have to choose to do something with it.
Yep. That's the biggie. I want to, she called it something in her work. When I thought it was really interesting. Let me see if I could find it. 'Cause she had 4 findings overall. There was the one we talked about where 95% of people are, think they're super, they're super aware, and they're just not.
And they're not.
And then there was the finding 2, and that's the path of self-awareness includes a measurable, predictable, painful phase, which is kind of what we've been dancing around. But that was really clearly her second finding. People who became genuinely self-aware almost universally reported a period that sometimes weeks, sometimes years, where their awareness made their lives worse before better. And I think could show up as that lonely period where you don't quite fit in with the group of friends that you were before, but you also don't fit in with maybe the gym goers or something.
Because you're not quite there yet.
You're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
You're aware of what you need to change, but you're not actually fully changed it 100% yet.
Right.
And I'm not talking about you being at goal weight or not.
Right.
Some people might think that's where I'm headed. I'm talking
No.
about
It's
what
more
is
of
automatic.
Your behavior isn't quite there yet.
Yep. Participants described it as, and I quote, "I could see what I was doing, but couldn't stop yet." Unquote. Another one said, and I quote, "I lost the ability to lie to myself, but I hadn't built new habits yet, so I just felt stuck and exposed." Unquote.
How uncomfortable.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Because now people are like, not only are you turning to it, other people are now seeing it. You're exposed. I had someone say, just don't stop.
Yeah.
I talked about it on another podcast. How exposed was I?
Right.
And I felt so vulnerable, like, oh, crap.
Well, yeah, and we mentioned how when we're on the weight loss journey and when people notice and they say something, how that has derailed us in the past.
Yeah.
Because we were exposed. People noticed.
This is that middle ground.
Yes.
This is that middle ground of
Wow.
awareness.
Yeah.
So there's this period where people want to abandon this because this is the uncomfortable middle phase. The discomfort wasn't a sign of failure, though. It was a sign of progress. And I'm going to say that again because I want people to hear that. If you are feeling like your life is not better, it is worse, but you are still working towards doing all the things that you know are going to get you to goal, but things just they don't feel right. They feel off. You're in the messy middle. That is the messy middle. The people who stayed in the gap, and this is what she reported, who tolerated the awareness without numbing it, without explaining it away or quitting, eventually moved into a phase where awareness did translate into action.
We've talked about resilience tools and skills. I think that's where that really can come into play.
They could come in to help them get over this. You could think of this as a hurdle or a bump in the road. This is you're still going uphill, even though you're more aware, but you're not actually doing all the things yet.
It's beautiful if you can recognize this. That's why it's so good that we talk about this, because if you could just label this and say, learning is confusing and frustrating, and that is what I'm doing. We talked about this with eustress.
Yes.
And learning is painful, but you can recognize to appreciate and almost love that feeling if you can label what it is.
Yep.
Because you can get to the other side.
I think this is the part that matters the most. It's like when you hear people say, people will quit just before they're about to reach that pinnacle moment.
Yeah.
This is that moment. This is the gap. Most people quit during this gap.
I have. You have.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I have. And this gap will show up totally different from one person to the next. This is where I can't take my journey and say, this is exactly how you're going to experience it.
No, it's impossible.
It's impossible. We've all lived different lives. We've had different experiences that have shaped our lives. So it's going to be different for everybody. This gap could be right in the middle of your journey. It could be at the end. It could be at the beginning. It could be 4 different times in your journey, because you're going to be a different person and you're going to have a different level of awareness at every point. That's what's crazy. So she found that the majority of people who began the process of self-awareness abandoned it during this uncomfortable middle phase because they assumed the discomfort meant something was wrong. And if you could stay in this gap, and people said things like, maybe I was better off not knowing. This isn't working. I'm more stuck now than I was before.
Well, yeah, because when you didn't know, it was more simple.
Yeah.
You were more comfortable. It was easier. You were part of a tribe.
You almost wish that you didn't know what you know now.
Right.
You can't.
And how easily you can go back to not knowing.
Oh, and I have before.
Mm-hmm.
Completely numbed out to it.
Oh, yeah. That didn't happen.
The gap is not a detour. It is actually the path. The gap is the path you have to take.
It's a journey.
The 4th thing she found was awareness without self-compassion is corrosive. So 1 was people think they're more aware than they are. 2 was the path of self-awareness includes measurable, predictable, a painful phase. And then there is the 3rd finding, which is most people quit during the gap. That's the most important part. That's the part that you're about to crest that mountain, whatever, the hill that is going to finally not be so, you're putting in a lot of effort to get up there. But finally, when you crest it, you're going to be on the downward slope. There's going to be another upward slope too, but just know that's coming. And then the 4th finding is awareness without self-compassion is corrosive. So one of the most important insights from Urich's work was this. Self-awareness without self-compassion doesn't lead to growth. It leads to self-attack. And I could see me doing this. This is that all or nothing thinking. This is that perfectionism crap of, okay, people who saw their patterns clearly and then judged themselves harshly for them were more likely to spiral into shame, abandon the change process entirely, develop new, dysfunctional coping mechanisms. Some people never have binged before until they start a weight loss journey, when there is a lot of restriction, when there is a lot of pressure that they put on themselves. And then they could start binging on things that they never had before. That's another dysfunctional coping mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
And they become hypercritical of themselves and others.
Oh, yeah. I think something else to think about here too, and it may not fit here, so I apologize for everybody listening. Those individuals, and I'm saying this because I am introspective, so those individuals who are questioners out there, if you're Gretchen Wilson reader and Gretchen Rubin, sorry. I don't know why I said Gretchen Wilson. She's a singer. Gretchen Rubin. And if you are a questioner, some research does show that self-awareness can sometimes lead to overthinking, especially if you are more introspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it can decrease that performance or increase anxiety, which is that like when you were talking about how it can get worse, right, before it can get better.
Yeah.
And that's that analysis paralysis effect. Like people become so focused in understanding and they get so introspective that they struggle to take action.
Yeah.
And they just get stuck. And I just want to warn those that are overthinkers, like
that's where
I can be.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just move. Just move. Don't overthink it, because I know I've been there before.
Absolutely. And I think that's another example of how somebody could get stuck in that gap.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the path for those people. They have to take that path.
Right. Just move. There's also a one more thing, because I think you're probably there's ego depletion too, like the mental effort required for that self reflection. It draws from that same, we've talked about this before, that limited cognition part of our brain,
Mm-hmm.
where we make the decision making part of our, like the executive decision making.
Yep.
It pulls from that. So
Yep.
like it does wear us out too. So that also makes us really tired. So we have to watch that as well. Just some more things that I just wanted to mention to watch for when we're going through that.
I think it's important to mention, why that gap is so painful.
Yes.
From a neuroscience standpoint, when you become aware of a pattern but can't yet change it, your brain, and we talked about this before, but I'm gonna lay it out again here. Your brain is in a state called cognitive dissonance.
Yes.
This is actually a term coined by psychologist Leon Festinger in 1957, if anybody's super interested in where that came from.
Yeah. You can look into it more. It's good to mention.
Where two conflicting truths, potential truths, exist at the same time. I see what I'm doing, but I'm still doing it.
Right.
I see that I'm eating the cashews and honey, but I'm actually still doing it.
And sometimes you have cognitive dissonance and you may not even realize it.
100%.
Most of the time, people don't even realize
And
it.
the brain hates this.
Yes.
I think I want to make sure we hit on this. It hates it.
Yeah.
So that's why it feels uncomfortable. You are biologically wired. Biologically wired
You got it right.
to seek internal consistency.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to pick one or the other, because that's gonna be certainty and internal consistency. So the brain offers 3 options to resolve dissonance. 1, change the behavior, which is the goal, but it takes time, repetition, and those new neural pathways take time to make. 2, change the awareness, which means going back to denial, numbing, avoidance, which the brain awakened can no longer fully do those things. So of course it's like, I can't change my awareness. Or 3, sit with the dissonance, which is uncomfortable, but is the only path that leads to lasting change. And we talk about this in the program too. I want you to sit with those 2 opposing thoughts. Could this person be right, but also this person be right? If we're talking about a process change, potentially. It's possible, but your brain doesn't want to do that. It hates it. It's actually the same level of uncomfort that you would feel if you were in physical pain. This is actually deeper than I think we ever really.
Your brain doesn't know the difference.
It does not know the difference.
Physical and social pain like that.
Most people faced with this kind of discomfort, they try to escape it. But the people who actually change, they learn to stay in the dissonance without abandoning themselves to it. I don't know what it was that led me to throw away the cashews and honey mid-binge. Maybe it was just simply me deciding that this time was going to be different. So I had enough of a moment of awareness that I could give myself 3 seconds to make a different choice. And it's like, that's all I had. And I made a different choice. I do want to also talk about the grief of self-awareness, which is really kind of this whole thing. There's a hidden cost. There's something we don't talk about either. Self-awareness comes with grief. You grieve the years you spent in patterns you didn't see. And this comes up with like, why didn't I do this sooner? Because you weren't ready to see it.
I already thought that. I was like, why didn't I have this conversation with you 20 years ago?
Why didn't we do this when we were 17?
It would have been nice to know this science when I was 17.
Yep. We have some really young girls in our group right now. Probably the youngest we've ever had. And there's this sense of, I don't want them to think of food in the same way that I thought of food, even at that age.
Yeah.
And right now she doesn't, but I want to make sure she doesn't.
Absolutely.
This isn't about restricting yourself down to 500 calories and getting there in 2 weeks. This isn't about losing muscle. This isn't about not going out with your friends to dinners or lunch. This is about an awareness to make some different choices that are going to get you closer to your goal while living your life.
Yeah.
We have to be able to do both. Otherwise, we're sunk.
Yeah.
You grieve the relationships affected by versions of you didn't know how to be different than. You grieve the body you have because of choices you now understand differently. I mean, I will never not have loose skin. Even if I got surgery, I think I would still have a level of loose skin. You grieve the time it took to get here. You grieve the version of you that thought you were doing fine. This grief is real. It's not weakness. It's not self-pity. It's not blah, blah, blah. But it's the cost of seeing clearly. Mm-hmm. There is a level of grief that we have to recognize that it's there. And it deserves to not be skipped over, because I could glaze over this kind of thing really easily, but this deserves a moment and to not be bypassed with like toxic positivity around it. We need to make sure that we do that. There's also, I want to make an important clarification. Awareness is still the path, even though I'm talking like it's got a hidden cost and be careful because it's going to suck for a time because you're going to be in the gap. It's the point. If awareness hurts this much, why bother? I could have seen a version of me saying that at one point. But here's why. Without awareness, change is impossible. With awareness, change is hard, but possible. This stuff, and we've talked about it before, the stuff we're doing is not easy. It's absolutely hard. The inner work and the outer work that we're doing at the same time. The discomfort of awareness is not a punishment, but it is the price of freedom. It is the price of freedom. I'm hesitant to say this, but the aware person feels the weight of seeing, and gradually with time and compassion, even though I have a hard time giving myself compassion around this, and practice, you can build a life that actually fits you. But there's going to be parts where it's not going to feel like your life anymore. You're not doing it wrong because it's hard either. You're not doing it wrong because you can't see your way to the other side. You are not doing it wrong because you ate some ice cream and you weren't supposed to. You're doing it right because it's hard. The discomfort means you're at the edge of who you used to be, and the edge is always uncomfortable. It is always uncomfortable. And that's hard for us to sit in because we have ate through discomfort for so long. It's so hard to not do that now. So what do we do? What do we do when awareness feels like too much? I have a couple pointers that might help us. When the gap feels unbearable, when you can see your pattern and can't change it yet. Like, I know I'm about to have this whole pint of ice cream. You see the pattern. You see it's coming. You're
thinking it.
Yes. You see your hand reaching for the freezer door at the grocery store and picking out the probably cookies and cream for me. Pint of ice cream. It's a pint. It's not like, a gallon.
Or multiple flavors.
That's
always an option.
It could be. Here's what the research and lived experience of people who have walked through this say. 1, name the gap out loud. I see this. I don't know how to change it yet. That's where I am. Naming it removes its power to feel like proof of failure. So what naming it does is it bumps you back into your prefrontal cortex, out of your limbic system, out of your amygdala, which is your fight or flight. That's where you're just trying to survive. Naming it actually pulls you back just a little bit into your prefrontal cortex. 2, refuse to weaponize awareness against yourself. Awareness is information.
Say that again.
Refuse to weaponize awareness against yourself. Awareness is information. Be curious to it. It's not ammunition. The moment it becomes a stick to beat yourself with, it stops being useful. Period. And I struggle with that because I can be very perfectionistic and let's just smooth past this thing. We can do better. We know better. Mm-mm. If it's a stick you're using to beat yourself with, it is no longer useful. You have to not weaponize the awareness against yourself. 3, this is kind of a trust the process. Trust the timeline is another way to consider it. Awareness comes first. Behavior change comes second. And we do not talk about that part enough. There is nothing wrong with you if you become aware before the behavior is actually changing. Awareness comes first, behavior change comes second. Sometimes there are months, even years. And I know that sounds like crazy between them, but that's just the truth. Why do you think you have to go around this mountain a couple times? You were probably stuck in the gap. Mm-hmm. Maybe you didn't trust the timeline. That's not actually a flaw in you. That's how the brain rewires. That's how biology works. We just have to trust the timeline. 4, stay close to people who understand. This is when we lean into community. Yeah. This work is heavy in isolation. And I'm saying this with a heavy heart because I'm someone who can just do it on her own.
I would almost say impossible. In isolation.
Yeah. I think it's impossible to sustain.
Yes.
In isolation. And I was someone who didn't, I wasn't real participatory in the group. I lurked. I liked things. And then when I got closer to goal, when I was in what I would call uncharted waters and like my 180s and my 170s, I'm like, what if this time is different? Mm-hmm. You have to do things differently. You have to start posting about your journey. And that's when I was finally 180 pounds down. I was like, okay, now I'll post something.
Yeah. I'm an extremely private person.
Yes.
Extremely private. I'm the same way.
I also talked
I'm a lurker.
Sure. And I also talked myself into things like my story's not any different from anybody else's. Who cares?
I don't post on social media at all.
I know.
It's pathetic.
We need to start.
I know. I'm like, I don't want to post, but I need to start.
Find or stay in community with people who get it. Awareness shared is actually awareness softened. Mm. We can make funny of the I'm pretending the food isn't for me. We can make funny of the different things that we are now aware of. That there's great stories in the community about icing and going back and hiding food and eating in private.
I love the icing from the wedding cake.
Oh my God,
and
it's
then
the best. It is the best premeditated level of awareness. It's so good.
It's fantastic.
So stay close to people who understand. 5, last one. Let awareness sit when it needs to sit. This is hard for me because I'm a get her doneer. Let's get this done. We're just going to move forward. But sometimes you'll see something and not be ready to change it. You will see something and not be ready to change it. That's okay. You don't look away. Don't look away. The seeing itself is doing work. Even when nothing visible is happening yet. Sit in the dissonance. The gap, maybe just the last final thought, unless you have something else. The gap between awareness and action is real. It's painful, it's predictable, and it's where most people quit. This is the messy middle talked about in a more scientific kind of way, I think.
The hidden cost of awareness, I would say, is temporary discomfort. Just keep going.
Yeah.
Until next time, stay curious.
Keep experimenting.